Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Docker Fundamentals Day 4, and this is your host Abhishek Kushwaha. And today I would be talking about Docker daemon, Docker architecture, then I would be discussing few Docker commands and how to execute them. Okay, so stay tuned and learn Docker with Tech on Cloud. So first, let's try to understand what is Docker daemon. A Docker daemon runs on a host operating system and it is responsible for running containers and manage Docker services. It basically communicates with other daemons and offers various Docker objects such as images, containers, networking, and storage. It also listens to the Docker API request and manages these objects. By default, the directory for the Docker daemon resides under var/library/docker for Linux systems. Okay, I hope I am clear what Docker daemon refers to. Now let's move to another slide and try to understand the architecture of Docker. As you can see on the screen, the Docker architecture comprises of three basic things, that is the client, then Docker host, then Docker registry. Docker basically follows client server architecture and these three components come under that. Okay, let's take one by one and try to understand. As you can see on the screen, there is Docker client, and this Docker client uses commands and REST APIs to communicate with the Docker daemon. Okay, so Docker daemon is actually a server. Okay, and Docker client are we, and we are running the client commands which are docker build, docker pull, docker run, and there are many more Docker commands which we give. Okay, when a client runs any Docker command on the Docker client terminal, the client terminal sends the Docker command to the Docker daemon. Okay, Docker daemon receives this command from the Docker client in the form of command and REST API request. As you can see, the arrows are giving the direction where the commands are sent. Now let's come to Docker host. Docker host is used to provide an environment to execute and run container and applications. Okay, the Docker host comprises of Docker daemon, as you can see in the architecture. Then there is containers, then there is images. Okay, other than that, it also has networks, storage. Okay, then there is a third component which is Docker registry. Docker registry manages and stores the Docker images. There are two types of registries in the Docker. One is public registry and the second is private registry. The public registry is also known as Docker Hub, and the private registry is used to share images within an enterprise edition. Okay, so we will be using basically Docker Hub for all these course activity. Okay. What are Docker images and containers? Yesterday we discussed in Docker Fundamentals Day 3 video. If you want to understand it again, you can just choose it from the Docker series playlist on Tech on Cloud. Okay. Now let's move to the another slide. Yeah, this is all explanation for the components which I just gave. Okay. Docker client uses REST API and commands to talk with Docker daemon, and Docker host has all that daemon and containers and networks and storage. Then daemon receives these commands from the client and it is forwarded to the Docker registries, which manages and stores the Docker images. Okay. I hope I am clear with the Docker architecture. Till here, if you have any doubt, please comment it out in the comment box and we can discuss further. Okay. Now let's move to the another section, which is Docker commands. So I would be talking about very basic Docker commands which we regularly keep on using while using the Docker. Okay. So let's move to the first command, which is docker run command. This run command is used to run a container from an image. Okay. This command will run an instance of the Ubuntu image on the Docker host if it already exists. Okay. That means it will not be working only for the Ubuntu image. It may be belong to any image which we want to fetch. Okay. If it is already present locally, then it will not be fetching it, and if it is not present, then it would be fetching it from the Docker hub. As you can see on the screenshot which I have pasted from my system, how it works. So we ran sudo docker run ubuntu. The image was not locally present. Then it started to fetch from the Docker hub and it was all done at last. Okay. This is all about docker run command. If you have the image, you can directly execute docker run command with the image name and your container will start. Okay. Now let's move to the next slide. So next we will be seeing docker ps command. Docker ps command will list all the containers running with some basic information. To see containers running or not, use -a option and they will give all containers whether they are running or exited. Okay. Now again you can see on the screenshot I ran a sudo docker ps and it gave me the list of containers which are currently running. So in my system there was not a container which was running, so there is nothing. But you can see when I run sudo docker ps, it gives me a container ID, image, command, created, status, ports and names. These all are basic informations for the container. Okay. If you see below after that, sudo docker ps -a give me the list of images which are present but they are not running. Okay. So this is all about docker ps command. Now let's move to see what is the work of docker stop command. So as the name suggests, docker stop command is used for stop the running container Okay, we must give a container ID or a container name in the stop command in order to stop the container. Okay, so if you see on the screenshot, sudo docker ps gives me a name of a running container. Okay, then I executed sudo docker stop and the container ID, and in return it gives me the container ID back. That means the command was successfully executed. And then after that, when I check through sudo docker ps, and the running container was gone. Okay, so this is the work of docker stop command. Now let's move to docker rm command, which is basically used to remove a stop or exited container permanently. Okay, for example, you can see in the screenshot, first I checked sudo docker ps to see if either a container is running or not. Then I ran sudo docker ps -a to see the list of all exited containers or the containers which are stopped. Okay, then what I did, I ran docker rm and the image name. It's not the image name, it's basically the name for the particular image. Okay, then there is an error because I was not running it with the help of sudo, or for that I have to be in the root directory, but I used sudo docker ps -a, and you can see that container was removed. Okay, I hope it's clear about docker commands till now here. If you have any doubt or you need any help, please comment it out in the comment box. Okay, now move further and see the next command. Now let's see docker images commands. To one who would be familiar with the docker, then they would be using this command every day, almost every day. So docker image command is used to see the list of all the images we present. Even I also use, whenever I build an docker image, I see it with the help of docker images command. Okay, so for example, you can reference the screenshot, and I ran sudo docker images and it gives me the list of images present in my systems which I have pulled. Okay, so this is the work of docker images command. Now let's move to docker rmi command. So we use docker rmi command to remove the images. If no containers are running of the image, then only rmi command will work. Okay, means that image is not being used to run a container, then only this command would be successful. Otherwise it would be throw an error. If you want to delete the image of the running container, then you have to first stop that running container. Okay, or you have to remove that container. Okay, if you see on the screenshot, I ran docker images to list out the images which are present. Then I ran sudo docker rmi with the image id, and it successfully deleted the instances of the image. Okay, now when I checked for confirming whether the image is deleted or not, I ran sudo docker images again, and yes, I was successfully able to delete my nginx image. Okay, now let's move further. Now we will be seeing docker pull command. So docker pull command is used to pull the Docker image from the Docker registry locally. Okay, let me correct it. Yeah. So basically Docker pull comes into action whenever we want to pull an image from the registry. Okay. For community edition, the registry is basically a Docker hub, and for enterprise they have their own secured registry. Okay. Sudo docker pull nginx, and you can see it is fetching the latest tag. Means if you doesn't give a tag for that image, then it would be always using the default latest tag to pull the image. Okay, that's all the functionality of the docker pull command. Now let's move to docker append command. So in the starting, if you see, when I run the docker command with Ubuntu, we doesn't see anything because it is not alive. It has nothing to execute, so it just exited. Means it has nothing to do that run Ubuntu command, then it exited straight away. Okay. Now if we want to append some command, and if the image isn't running any services, then we can execute something with the docker run command. Okay. So for example, a sleep command with a duration of 100 seconds I have executed, and when the container starts, it runs a sleep command and goes into sleep for 100 seconds. As you can see on the screen, the cursor does not exited, it is still running, and it would be running for 100 seconds. Okay, so this is all about append a command into a run command. Okay, now the last command which I would be talking about would be docker execute command, and this command is used to execute a command on a running container. Okay, in previous slide what we just saw was executing a command when we run a container, but what if we would like to execute a command on a running container? For example, when I run the docker ps command, I can see that there is a running container. You can see on the screenshot what I told. I am running sudo docker ps, and there is an image which is running. Let's say I would like to see the contents of the file inside the running container. For that, I could use the docker execute command to execute a command on my docker container. So the command to see the files inside that image, or we can say that file for that host which I have used here, you can see I have used sudo docker execute the name of the image, which is loving whatever hot kin, and what I told to execute the command on this image to see the host file. For host file, what we have run, it is cat command, which is a Linux command to basically list the items in the file, and we have given the path of that file, which is etc and hosts, and as output it gives out the contents, or we can say that the files which are present in the host. Okay, I hope it's clear. What is docker execute command? It is basically running a command over a container which is already running, and I have shown you an example in the screenshot. That's all for day 4 for Docker fundamentals. If you like this content and if you like my explanation and whatever I presented, please like this video, subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. I would be coming up with lots of more courses and it would be on funning, learning and exploring with projects. Okay, yeah, till then, bye bye, take care, and please hit the like button and subscribe button for my channel. See you all in the next video, which is Docker Fundamentals Day 5 tomorrow. Yeah, but an update what I would be presenting tomorrow would be a further extension of the Docker run commands. Okay, then we would be talking about a method which is port mapping. So port mapping would be a little bit long and little bit complex topic. So I have kept it only these two things for Docker Fundamentals Day 5. Okay, I hope you all are liking it. Now it's bye bye, take care, all the best from Tech on Cloud.